Hi guys, in this video we are going to talk about the reproductive system. So reproductive system is a system of sex organs within an organisms which work together for the purpose of sexual reproduction. The entire male reproductive system is dependent on hormones, which are chemicals that stimulate the activity of cells or organs. So the primary hormones that involves in functioning the male reproductive system is the follicle stimulating hormone, the luteinizing hormone, and the testosterone. So one of the parts of the male reproductive system is the penis. It is consists of the root, which is attached to the abdominal structure and the pelvic bones, the visible part of shaft, and the glans penis. So the opening of the urethra where the semen and urine pass through is located at the tip of the glans penis, and the base of the glans penis is called the corona. And in uncircumcised males, the foreskin extends from the corona to the glans penis. Next is the scrotum. It is a thick skin sac that surrounds and protects the testes. It also acts as a climate control system for the testes because it needs to be slightly cooler than the body temperature for a normal development of the sperm. Next is the testes. They have two primary functions. One is they produce sperm, the male genes. Next is they produce testosterone, the male hormone. And they average about 1.5 to 3 inches in length and 2 to 3 teaspoons in volume. And usually the left testes hang lightly lower than the right one. So next is the epididymis, and it is consists of single-coiled microscopic tube which measures 6 meters long, and it collects sperm from the testes and provides the environment for the sperm. The vas deferens. It is also called ductus deferens. It is a firm tube that transports sperm from the epididymis to the ejaculatory ducts in the anticipation of ejaculation. The urethra. It has a dual function. First is that it transports urine from the bladder, and next is it is where the semen is ejaculated. The prostate. It lies under the bladder and surrounds the urethra, and it is a walnut size for young men, but it enlarges with age. However, if it enlarges too much, it can block the urine flow through the urethra and might cause complications. So finally, the seminal vesicles. So it is located above the prostate, joined with the vas deferens from the ejaculatory ducts, which travel along with the prostate. So the prostate and seminal vesicles produce fluid that nourishes the sperm. So the female reproductive system has a lot of functions, like producing female gametes called egg, secreting female sex hormones called estrogen, and providing site for fertilization, and even giving birth to a baby. So the female reproductive system has two main parts, the uterus and the ovaries. So the uterus hosts the developing fetus. It produces vaginal and uterine secretions, and lastly, it passes the anatomically male sperms through the fallopian tube. And the ovaries produces anatomically female egg cells and produces and secretes estrogen and progesterone. Clitoris is the sensitive site of sexual stimulation. Next is the cervix. It is the end of the uterus that opens to vagina. So vagina is the female reproductive tract. It is situated between the cervix of the uterus and the external genitalia, primarily the vulva. So its function is for sexual intercourse and childbirth. So asexual reproduction is when the offspring contains genetic information from only one parent and the offsprings are identical to one another. And then sexual reproduction is requires one parent only, and each of the parent contributes half of the DNA of the offspring. So external fertilization is when gametes meet outside the body, and this is usually common for aquatic animals, while internal fertilization is when male deposits sperm inside a female's body where fertilization occurs, and this is usually common for mammals. So when there is lots of yolk present and embryo's development into miniature adult, this is called direct development. And it is called indirect development when little yolk is present and young develop into larval stages that can feed. So sperm travels through epididymis, vas deferens, and ejaculatory duct and goes out with the body with semen through urethra during an orgasm or ejaculation. Then spermatogenesis begins with the diploid cell, which mitotically yield a stem cell and a primary spermatocyte. The first mitotic division produces secondary spermatocyte. In mitosis 2, the secondary spermatocyte divide and yielding 4 haploid spermatids, and the spermatids develop into mature sperm cell. Egg cells originate in the ovaries. So each month after puberty, an ovary releases one egg cell in the uterine tube, which leads to the uterus. A blood-rich endometrium lines the inside of the uterus. The cervix leads to vagina, which connects the uterus with the outside of the body. In oogenesis, germ cells divide mitotically to form 2 primary oocytes. In meiosis 1, the cytoplasm of the primary oocytes divides unevenly as it splits into large secondary oocytes and much smaller polar body. In meiosis 2, the secondary oocytes again divide unevenly and unequally, yielding the large haploid ovum and another smaller polar body. So meiosis in female begins before birth and completes at fertilization. So ovaries secretes estrogen and progesterone, hormones that controls the female sexual characteristics. So these hormones also control the ovarian cycle and menstrual cycle. So male produces sperm and delivers it to the female's body where fertilization occurs. And in fertilization, sperm cell burrows through 2 layers surrounding in the secondary oocyte. So the 2 united cells constitute diploid zygote. And the pre-embryonic stage lasts from fertilization until the 2nd week of development. After fertilization, cleavage division produces a ball of cells between 3 to 6 days, and the ball arrives at the uterus and hollows out, forming blastocyst. An outer layer of cells and inner cell mass form. The blastocyte secretes human chronic gonadotropin, which prevents menstruation. The implantation occurs between 6 to 14 days, and during the 2nd week of amniotic cavity forms as the inner cell mass flattens, forming embryonic disc, and ectoderm and endoderm forms. Then mesoderm appears and establishing 3 primary germ layers called gastrula. The embryonic stage lasts the 2nd week, from the 2nd week to the 8th week of development. So chronic villi extending from the cranium starts to develop in the placenta. The yolk sac, the allantosis, and the umbilical cord form as the amnion swells with fluid. Those structures continue to elaborate during fetal stage, which lasts from the 9th week until the baby is ready for birth. And then labor begins as a fetus presses against the cervix. And in positive feedback loop, cervical stretching triggers the release of oxytocin, which simulates uterine contractions that push the baby further out, causing even more stretching. And eventually, mother expels the baby and placenta. So the pill contains a small amount of synthetic estrogen and progestin hormone. So these hormones work to inhibit the body's natural follicle hormones to prevent pregnancy. So the pregnancy is prevented because the pill, one, stops the body from releasing an egg from the ovary. Two, changes the cervical mucus to make it difficult for the sperm to find the egg. And third, makes the lining of the womb inhospitable for implantation. STI stands for sexually transmitted infections. And examples of these infections are chlamydia, gonorrhea, herpes, and syphilis. And the people who are infected with these conditions are most vulnerable to HIV, which stands for human immunodeficiency, and also AIDS, which stands for acquired immune deficiency, is caused by HIV, and this is still from the unprotected sexual intercourse.
I know